Hey there, welcome. And this is Power Cuties here, and I've got Cactimamba, and we're very excited to present you guys with our first podcast, I guess we can call it. Tentative name, Cacti Cuties. So this podcast is going to be us just kind of talking about Path of Champions stuff, mainly news and kind of our thoughts and ideas of some recent developments. It's going to be pretty casual. It's going to be pretty laid back. We're just going to kind of like shoot the breeze here and let us know if this is something you guys like. This is kind of an experiment right now, so we really would love to hear your feedback. Make sure you guys leave your ideas and suggestions in the comments, and we will take those seriously. Well, welcome, Cacti. How are you today?
Thank you. I mean, yes, like you said, it's very tentative. It's just like how Path of Champions was launched in labs. We are also in labs right now.
That's
We're
right.
testing things out. Heimerdinger is having his way with us, but no, it's been a beautiful day today. I'm excited to talk about some Path stuff with you. It's luckily, right, we've got the Wizard of Path with us today, so I'm honored.
Is that me? Is that my name now?
That's your title. Right? Unless you want to be the Canadian Path player, but we have one or the other.
I actually kind of like the wizard.
I do too. That's what it's all about. Like we got this.
All right. Well, so there's actually like a lot of exciting things to talk about today. The first thing that I want to talk about is we're still kind of early in the month of November, which means we had just completed, both of us, the November monthlies. This has been I've done the monthlies each month, and this month was a lot of fun, especially with having so many players involved in it. Because we've got rewards now. We've got Aurelian Soul and a whole bunch of other goodies unlocked. And I guess, Cacti, this is kind of like the first time that you've, I think, played through the whole monthly. Is that right?
Yeah, I've done a couple others for like I kind of messed around and maybe went for like a couple wins here or there, but like I didn't really commit to it because I just felt like I was more like just try and like level up champions more than anything. But man, obviously I had to do it this time. The rewards were in. We got to get the brand spanking new champion Aurelian Soul, and I mean, it was a blast. I mean, I really enjoyed it. Felt like this was like the first like real attempt, and it like showed for me like I had a lot more success than I did in the past because like I was really putting in like full 100% effort.
And I mean, congratulations, because not only was this like your first like monthlies that you completed, but you blasted it, you destroyed it. If people don't know, Cacti did go 70 for 70, so no losses throughout the entire challenges, and he actually hit first page on the leaderboard. So congratulations.
Thank you. I was thinking to myself, I'm like, listen, if I'm gonna start doing the monthlies, I gotta make a statement. Like I gotta go out and bang. Now, don't expect this performance from me every single time. I'm not sure I'm gonna.
No, you've set a bar.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Prism Sword actually has his sights pinned on me now, so I gotta be a little careful here. But, yeah.
No, I mean, I was so excited to see your name on the leaderboard. I was in a little bit of shock. Not that I'm a doubter, but I know that you don't have like the complete 30 level 3-star rosters, and like you did it, man. You really did do it.
Yeah, I was like, I thought it was funny because like my name, like every single time I would keep stopping the recording, I'd check the leaderboard, and it was always just like I'm just slowly inching up, and I could just like I was just slowly climbing the ranks, and then it got really real whenever I hit about like I think it was like one of my episodes I hit like rank 28, and I was like, wait a second,
Yeah.
I'm 28 right now, like how am I 28? And I just kept going. I'm like, okay, I could actually hit the first page, and then I did, and obviously and worked out, but. Man, that was quite the challenge, wasn't it? I mean, I don't know how it was in comparison to some of the other ones for you in the past, but like, it seemed like there are some pretty tough challenges that were added to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, people had been asking me, how does the difficulty stack up with previous months? I honestly feel like it's kind of similar. Like, there hasn't been that much variation. Last month was a little bit easier, actually, but in general, there isn't that much variation between month to month. I mean, it really ramps up. It starts pretty easy, and then by the challenge 30, it starts getting tough. By challenge 40, 50, it starts to really get tough. And this month was no exception. One thing I hated about this month was there was so much of that small stuff mutator. Oh my god, I hate that.
Yeah, small tough is a really tough one, especially whenever you decide to learn LeBlanc into small stuff. But I mean, like, it still worked out. I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
if you guys know this. I forgot to kind of mention it at the beginning, but Hercules has been on a 4 month run now because he completed
that's
the
right. Yeah.
last three for perfect 70 for 70, and he did it again. So he's a true expert, but that will not stop him from picking LeBlanc on small stuff because he still seems to win. So maybe he's trying to nerf himself to bring himself further in line with the rest of us. But
I mean, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
yeah. Well, I mean, it's not broken for you. I'm not sure I'd recommend it for everybody else. But if it works, then you can't blame it. But yeah, no, these were I think the real tough one for me. Like there were some other ones in the small stuff run that like didn't concern me too much. Like challenge number 50 has it, and
Yeah,
I ran Jack on it, felt pretty confident. But
yeah,
that 64 one, that one was scary. Like
yeah.
that small stuff actually had me trembling my boots a little bit. I was a little bit worried about that one with the fact that you have not only Azir but Zed, like just two straight aggro characters just coming right at you at the gate. I mean,
Yeah,
man,
yeah. And the thing that frustrates me with small stuff is basically to beat it, you kind of really have to like really focus on the champion and the relic build on your champion. And then if you don't draw your champion, you're just like pooched.
I actually in that run, right in run 64, I had Nidalee, and on the first one against Azir, I took like over half my Nexus in damage before I drew Nidalee. Like,
Ooh,
and then I was like,
oof.
and I finally got Nidalee, and I was fine. But like, the idea was like, I was just waiting for Nidalee to come down on the
Yeah.
floor, and meanwhile, Azir's just got these like, it was like 5-1 or 7-1 Sand Soldiers, like they were just ruining me that whole time,
Oh
like,
my
and I'm just
gosh.
like, it's just like my Nexus was just a punching bag for the enemy, but like, it worked out. It was just waiting to get the champions on the board is really like, I think that's the one thing with like the further up you go into the monthlies that I noticed was like that you just need to draw your champion. Like some
Yeah.
of the earlier ones,
Yeah.
you're okay, but these later ones, like you don't have your champion, and like depending on your deck, you just lose. Like if you don't have your champion
Actually, I
at
was
the
gonna
gate.
ask you because I haven't seen all your videos just yet. Did you end up using Chameleon's necklace at all, specifically
No,
for that
no.
reason?
So I did not, but
Yeah.
there might have been like a couple where I might have considered it, but
Yeah.
like luckily I have some deal with like the RNG gods to be fair, and I draw my champions enough to where I win. Like
Yeah.
there was a couple times where it was scary, but like especially on the later ones,
Yeah.
I used like the my top four, I would guess is what I would say is like, which is Jinx, Nidalee, Gwen, and LeBlanc are like my
Yeah.
top four.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so like for me it was like I just used those like throughout the course of like almost the entirety of like the last 10 levels. Like I was just so
Yeah.
committed, and then I used like one Aurelion Soul Run because I already had him to level 30 in star 3, so because of the beautiful greater pearls. So it was great.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I don't think I used any chameleons this month either. But it's always like in the back of my head. It's like, what is that value of just having those extra champions to draw into, like as just to mitigate, the disaster situation? And I know Yuzun actually does do this, so he does actually use chameleons to mitigate that, to mitigate those bad draws. And I mean, it's
I
so
think
hard to
it's
just like figure out the math and like what is the chance of not drawing that versus not running like a good relic and stuff like that. It's
I
really
was gonna
hard.
say it's like you're. I think the biggest takeaway there, right, is it's always about the consistency element versus like true power, right? So like if
Yeah.
you take away a little bit of your consistency, but in return you're getting a little bit more reward for it. So it's that classic like risk versus reward that I really like.
Yeah.
But that's also why a lot of the times, like you see me a lot of the times, I actually go for the champion item because that
Hmm.
also adds another champion to your deck.
Yep.
And so because of
Yep.
that,
Yep.
it strengthens your chance of drawing your win con, and that's why I typically go for that more so than I go for like some of the other like side elements like better in your deck, because a lot of the time I notice that the champions are what causes your win con, right? Not necessarily like my 2/3 unit that's a 2 cost. It's like that. Sometimes
Yeah.
it'll help you, but most champions, they're their own win con
Yeah. I
of
mean,
their decks.
I've been doing monthlies for like I think what is it 8 months now, and cannot remember ever not choosing the path with the champion item. Like it's just that
It's just
important
so
to have the
strong.
extra copies. Yeah.
I think it's just like we can all accept like how strong items are when they're attached
Yeah.
to a card.
Yeah.
And so when you have three items from the start of the game attached to a card,
Yeah.
and it's also a champion, which champions inherently have such strong effects, it's like why wouldn't you want to have more of them?
Yeah.
It's just so much stronger.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a fun question for you because
Sure,
this was
sure.
definitely something that I experienced the first couple monthlies. But which champions this month did you like get to play that you hadn't played in like ages and ages and ages, and you just like got to play them this month and was like, oh yeah, I remember this champion. This champion's fun.
Well, like it's kind of that's a great question because so for you, you kind of got to experience a lot sooner whenever there was less champions. But
Yeah.
for me, who's been leveling up champions for a while now, and like I just didn't have like a lot of my roster complete for a long time. But like I had a few champions that were like level 30 that I just didn't touch because either they were just so strong that there was no point in running them, or like there was just no reason to play them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think like a great example of that was actually like was Jax and Kaizo were like the two that I
Yeah.
really didn't touch. And also, surprisingly, actually, for me, it was Alawi because Alawi was one of my
Ah.
first ones that I actually ever level 30'd. And I
Mm,
don't, even though I enjoy her playstyle quite a bit, it's like there's no reason to play her because she's a pretty straightforward, like, combo OTK deck. And
mm-hmm.
so it's like, once you kind of know how to play her, there's not a lot of reason to like go back and try her out because there's not a lot of randomizations in the runs for Alawi. It's a lot more just go keep swinging with your tentacles and Alawi until you win. And it was nice though. I had a lot of fun bringing out Alawi again. I had a lot of fun bringing out. I brought out the Kai'Sa, which was
Yeah.
interesting because I didn't really play her a lot since the nerf because
Yeah. I,
she
s-
was
I saw
what
that, and you seemed like you were having a lot of fun with her.
I like her a lot. I think
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of big static units and
Yeah.
big keyword units. Like I love both of those. Like anytime you can get like life steal, scout, elusive, and like you also somehow get brash in there or something, and you're like no other like there's not a lot of characters in the game that can do that, but
Mm,
luckily Kaiser is one of them, and she has such an interesting play style and like a little bit more flexible, I think, than some of the other champions that you sometimes see with the way that you can build her because I know that not everyone builds her like me because I really like Ludens on her for
mm,
champion power
mm-hmm.
whenever she attacks, but some people don't like the Ludens, so it's just kind of up to them.
Yeah, actually, if I remember correctly, I think you used turret plating with her a few times as well.
I think so. Like, so
Yeah.
actually, I will say that was if you're looking to do this monthly challenge, I actually think that turret plating is like the unsung hero. Like,
Mm.
I've used turret plating in that monthly challenge. I think more than I've ever used it ever outside of the challenges because the fact that you refill your health to full every single time means that like your entire goal is just to like. I think people don't use enough of their Nexus health a lot of the time, where they're like, I can just take that damage because as long as my number doesn't hit 0, I'm okay. Like
Mhm.
I've had quite a few moments during my runs where like my Nexus was like sub 10 health, but like I held it because it was like me taking that damage allowed me to develop a little bit more of my board, and then that was what allowed me to win the game. And so it was like there's a lot of times where like I played a little bit more on the riskier side, but it ended up working out because like it's not like an Age Soul run or something where like if you go down to 2 health, well on the next on your next time that you go into an encounter you're at 6 health, right? So it's a little bit more play a little bit riskier but for a higher reward.
It's actually so funny. I was literally about to ask you. Like, my next question was going to be, what were the relics that you used that kind of surprised you on how good they were for the monthlies? And then the follow up is, what were the champions that surprised you for how good? So other than turret plating, anything else that was like really like surprisingly good for monthlies that you found?
I mean, trying to think here a little bit. I mean, I think one that I've been surprised with recently that isn't just good for monthlies, but in general, like I just didn't realize how strong it was Star Gem. Like the
Yeah.
fact that you get like
Yeah.
the 1/1 stat line as well as the decrease in
Yeah.
cost, especially with my LeBlanc build. I mean, I'm proud to say that I thought of that one, but like that LeBlanc build is disgusting. Like double Star Gem plus
Yeah.
Oath of the Guardians, but like Star Gems in general, like there was like one time I ran Kindred with double Star Gem and GA because it was better. I thought it was gonna be better because I was just gonna keep summoning Kindreds. So it's just like getting like 5 or 6 Kindreds on the board, and they're all giving each other +2 +2.
Yeah.
Or I think it was
Yeah.
+1 +1 because I don't think I had them level 30. But like that was a relic that I was like really surprised by, and I
Yeah.
was actually. I think my biggest bait relic for me wasn't actually on every single champion was just on one, and that was Gatebreaker on Garen. I most of the time I was actually okay with that build because I was able to get away with it, but
Yeah.
against Aurelia with the every strike doubles it, I thought it would double my Gatebreaker strikes, but it didn't.
Yeah.
So
It actually has
I
to
was
like hit the
actually
unit.
really,
Yeah.
yeah, it was that was the problem. Is I actually was really struggling there, but I think the other one that I thought was like a really strong champion that like going into everything, I kind of had like a certain tier list in mind for what champions were really strong, and I going into everything, I thought that like Set and Jack for me were on very even playing fields.
Mm.
But after playing Jack, man, he's so good. Like I
Yes.
think Jack's a little bit better than Set. Like
Oh
it pains me
yes.
to
Yeah.
say so because I love Set, but
Yeah.
like Jack is just he's I think he just fills his niche a little bit better.
Yeah.
And because of that he's able to do a lot more. And so he was one of the ones that I used a lot. And I honestly like I think the other champion that you're gonna hate me for saying, but like I just genuinely like she was like my pocket pick was Evelyn.
Evelyn. Yeah.
Evelyn's so good. I mean, I listen. It's not
Yeah.
my fault you don't draw her on perf,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
for me, dude, like she's always pulled, and that board stun is just so good. Like I
Yeah.
think one of the things that I guess actually that's another relic that was really good for me this round that I think is like almost basically like an S tier relic for the champions that can run it, which is Tempest Blade. Like
Mm.
that relic is such a lifesaver
Yeah.
because like all you do is you it's like the same thing I did with Nidalee a lot too in the small stuff run and just in general, which is you attack on your turns with Nidalee especially with your leveled up version of Nidalee. So then you de-level her and she goes back to unleveled. And then you level her up on your defensive turn to stun their entire board while they're attacking, because she has a lot of ways to burst speed and level herself. And then you stun their entire board when they're attacking so that they have no attack pressure, and then you then again attack on your turn and stuff. And you can do that a lot with Evelyn too. Not at burst speed, but again, very similar. And those Tempest Blades were all the difference. Like they helped me with a few runs where like it was like there was a you haven't seen it, but on the final encounter of the challenge 64,
Mm-hmm.
Zed uses his copy like two of himself with the ephemeral spell,
Yeah.
and like I just instantly stun him because he
Tempest. Yeah.
because yeah with the Tempest, and it just helps so much. Like it relieves quite a bit of pressure, and I think that would be like one of like the strongest relics in my mind in terms of like a lot of people already know Crown Guard is good, and Crown Guard is good. Let me tell you, Crown Guard's very good. But like Tempest Blade has its place with a lot of champions. Not every champion, but the champions that use it can use it. You know.
Yeah. For me, I think the champions that really like impressed me, especially like more recently, one is actually Jack. Just the ability, this is specifically 3-star Jack, but the ability to just like ping their board every time you refill mana. And there's a lot of mutators that actually help that, like that get you back mana at various times as well. You can get so much value off Jack. It's so crazy.
Wait, did
And
I
he's
say Jack or Set earlier, or Jack or Jax earlier? Which one did I say?
You said Jax.
Oh, I meant to say Jack, but either way,
Okay.
hey, we'll take it. Yeah, no, you agree with me then, because Jack
yeah.
is really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's super good.
Yeah. Like better than you would just think. Like you would think on paper, yeah, he should be pretty good, and then you actually like use him with some of these mana refill mutators and things like that, and it's just like they can't do anything. I'm like godly. Like, this is insane.
So one of the things recently with Jack, and I was talking about Jack earlier, I think Jack's is absurd, but like Jack too is really strong because the one thing that I didn't play with him, like we were talking about like champions that I hadn't played that much. I leveled up Jack very early on, so I didn't get to see the buff that added the health back to him for a long time. And it's so much better because of it. Like he was already a strong champion, but getting the ability whenever he refills mana to heal some of himself back up, like that with Berserker's Buckle is disgusting. Like it just feels like you're not taking damage. You know, you're just slowly going up in health, and while the rest of the board is getting close to 1 health, and then they're just getting pinged down, like you said, by the refills on mana.
The other one that was a superstar this month, which kind of surprised me, and I think it was just because of the type of mutators we had this month, was actually Volibear. Just because we got like that magic number mutator, the one where cards are 3 mana when you draw them. And it's just so funny. It's just so funny to like play like triple Gatebreaker or something else like just as degenerate and just drop Volley and win.
was that the build you ran? Because like I know for me, I ran triple gatebreaker.
Yeah,
Which build
I
you run?
did. I ran triple gatebreaker, and it was
So
like, wow, this is just crazy. I literally just play one card and win.
it was so nice, and I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I stole the triple gatebreaker build from you, so I can't really talk too much there. But like, it's so good. Like the ability to put literally 21 damage onto the Nexus, like right when you play a 3-cost unit, and then that can also get slays for cheaper Titanic units, and on top of that is potentially doing 6 more to face, and then it's probably leveling with overwhelm. You know what I mean? It's just like it just feels like there wasn't anything the enemy could do, and that was the only champion that I probably wouldn't put like S tier that I think I actually ran during the final 60. I mean,
Yeah,
you could
yeah,
probably argue with me on. Actually, no, I didn't use Evelyn in the final 60. So yeah, there you go.
yeah,
That was the only champion, and that was because of the magic number. That
yeah.
was it. Just fits so well with him.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to relics, I think you mentioned everything that I wanted to mention. Mainly Star Gem. Like Star Gem is something that people sleep on, and in fairness, I think it isn't as good in adventures a lot of the time, but just because there's other like good stat generation, like bounty hunters. But when
Oh
it
yeah,
comes to monthlies, Star Gem really has this opportunity to shine. And then the other one that I do want to mention, and finally I do see some people coming around to it, is Caulfield's Warhammer. The stupid +2/+1 vanilla relic, and I just want to mention that because I've actually been using Warhammer pretty much from like the first monthlies, and I
oh yeah.
never saw anybody else using it. Everyone was just trashing it. They're like, why just use a vanilla? You can use all these other things that are going to give you keywords and this and that, and it's like it's because that +2 is getting you to a certain threshold, and that threshold is literally game changing. So, for example, let's say if you're playing against Yasuo and you're playing, I don't know, like let's say a Jax, or no, somebody. Let's just say somebody, or let's say Elise, somebody with 2 attack, and it's like, okay, do you really want to put double Stalker's Blade on the Elise to kill that Yasuo, or do you just want to put like a Warhammer and a Stalker's Blade, get that critical mass of 4 damage, and then you can actually do stuff with your Elise afterwards as well and put some pressure on them. And it's like for such a like stupid basic like otherwise unplayable relic, it actually like has its role, it has its spot in monthlies.
It's kind of beautiful actually. Like
Yeah.
a relic like that, which you would feel like is kind of like a useless relic
Yeah.
most of the
Like you
time,
would never use that
actually has
otherwise.
so
Yeah.
much pressure. Like I think the like it's kind of interesting to me because there's some relics I think are like really strong that I didn't personally use like within the monthlies, but like I just typically I think Chemtech Duplicator is like an absurd relic, but
Oh
like I
yeah.
didn't really use Chemtech that much. Like
Yeah.
I think it's because I use it on a lot of the champions that I played earlier on, but like
Yeah. Yeah.
it was kind of interesting because like there were some ones that I felt like aren't necessarily as strong of like a relic build that like feel so much better. Like I think even like you can argue that something like Luminous Orb has its place too in the monthlies that you don't really feel like really has a place in
Yeah.
adventures a lot of the time. Like
That's true.
even
Yeah.
like and we're not even talking with the fates of like, you know, the new relic that just came out, but like even just in general, like Luminous Orb and the ability to block and elusive is so strong. Like
Mm,
that ability is actually so much more underrated than people give it credit for, especially
yes.
if you know that you're going into that adventure.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you. Like Luminous is not really something I would ever use in normal adventures, but like yeah, no, I'm using it like here and there in monthlies like all the time. Yeah, for sure.
I think actually I do want to give a shout out to one more relic too that I was kind of thinking about. Where at this point I'm basically naming the entire relic tree, but like you know I actually one that I kind of came around upon a lot with was actually with the Lowy, and that was the Laurent Blade Rack. I think
Yeah,
that
yeah. Yeah.
like I used to be high on the Troll King's Crown for a long time, but I Blade Rack's really grown on me a lot because the ability, especially with something like a Lowy, but with a lot of other champions too, the ability to choose the matchup that each of your champions can get that they normally don't get to choose, right? Because they inherently don't have challenger with them, is so good. Like that ability is just so much stronger than people necessarily give it credit for,
Yeah.
and it won me some games. Like Blade Rack genuinely wins you games, right? Um,
Basically, for me, anytime I see an opponent where they have a champion that scares the crap out of me. So, for example, like a Katarina or a Viego, I am always either going to use either Stalker's Blade or Laurent Blade Rack, one or the other, because I just need that certainty, and probably the Blade Rack, because I need that certainty that that champion is going to die. Because if they don't die, I'm in trouble.
Blade is a little bit less
Yeah.
likely. I think that's the interesting thing too, because like a lot of people, there's some like more like, oh, I wouldn't necessarily say flashy relics, but
Yeah.
people always tend to think of them as like, like you think about like your Grand General's counterplane, you think about
Yeah.
like the Stalker's Blade,
Or
and,
even
like,
even Chemtech dupe. Yeah.
Chemtech is thought about a lot, I would agree, and then like GA is thought about a lot of times on some of the adventures, as well as like the Crown Guards. But then there's some ones that like they really do have their place when you're not really thinking about them. Like I think one of my favorite pickups that like most people have kind of like in the back of their mind at this point, but still some people aren't thinking about it, is like Lost Chapter on Italy, for example, where it's like
I think people do know about it now. Like I don't think that's underrated anymore. It might have used to be.
Not anymore, but it just kind of goes to show that like some of these ones are really really strong. Now, I mean, a lot of people still run Everfrost on Yasuo, but I'm actually not an Everfrost enjoyer on Yasuo for the most part. Like I'll run like maybe one, but I actually think that there's like Tempest Blade's really strong. I'm high on Tempest Blade. I understand. I probably am rating it a little bit higher than some people would, but I think that there's some really good relics that you don't necessarily think about, and it was nice. It was refreshing for like once, like being like a guy that basically has only done ASOL adventures for like the past however many months, because like most of the other ones you've already kind of done and to level up, and to go and to pick relics that were actually a lot stronger for things that weren't ASOL was actually really refreshing. It was something that I haven't been able to do for a long time.
And I mentioned this on my Discord, but like I'm actually not kidding. I'm actually had learned a lot from watching you play, because you are using these less used relics in interesting ways. And it's just like sometimes like I in the back of my mind I'll be like, I think this is gonna be good, but I'm just too chicken to try it. It's like Cactimamba has no fear. He will run Star Gem on whoever he wants.
Listen, there's no better feeling than throwing for content. Okay, so like, you got to do it, and like I didn't have a certain reputation uphold, on champions. So like for me, why not try to go into?
But I mean, it worked, right?
Like Star Gem on Echo.
It worked.
Like why not?
It worked.
It works, but I'm not sure how much that was just sheer luck. But I'll take it. Like I think that a lot of it too is just like honestly, a lot of relic builds will work as long as you have a certain plan in mind. And you know what you're looking for.
You need to plan ahead.
Yeah, and it's like I think that people underestimate that. Like if you have a build that works for you that no one else is using, you don't necessarily like have to. Like a lot of people use other relics on Italy than I do. Besides Lost Chapter, everybody uses Lost Chapter, but like not everyone runs Tempest Blades, and I don't think most people run Archangel's Staff as their last one. But like I do, because I like to have that extra generation of the spell mana every turn. But it's like if you have a certain plan in mind for what you're going to go for it. Like I like another relic that I think like nobody uses but me, or at least most people don't use, and as far as I'm concerned, is the Voidborn Carapace. I love that relic.
I did see you using a lot. I'll be honest with you, I don't know how much it was helping you, to be perfectly honest. You had been using it a lot.
I think it's better on like an ASOL run than it is in I
agree with. Yeah,
but it is a strong relic if you know that like a certain enemy is going to have spell shield, or a certain enemy is going to have like elusive. Like the ability to remove that by killing that enemy and then getting that stats for the champion that's like your win con can be really really strong. Now it's not perfect on everybody. Probably shouldn't use it as much as I do, but why not? Why not?
Okay, as much as I would love to talk about champions and relics and builds, we do need to move forward a little bit here, because we do have more stuff to talk about. And I mean, the other thing,
the elephant in the room.
Yeah, there is a big space elephant in the space dragon elephant in the room, and that's right. The reason why we're so excited about this monthlies is because Aurelian Soul was one of the rewards, and by completing all 70 challenges, you can get a 3-star Aurelian Soul. And so I have been playing him the past few days, and my personal opinion is this guy is overpowered, busted, just insanely powerful. Almost to the point where I'm starting to get worried that I might become a worse player by overplaying him because I forget how to play the game.
Yeah, it was really interesting. Like ASOL was like, the fact that I could win like with a greater Cosmic Pearl and like immediately get level 30 on him, like beating like even with one extra man at the start of your run, like beating Aurelion Sol at level 1 is absurd. Like that, to be able to do that on a champion is, it says a lot about the literal sheer power level of that champion at level 1 with no extra relics. Like, to be able to beat something based with just on its starting deck and its star powers alone, like no extra like extra uncommons or rares or whatever like you're attaching to it, and he's broken. Like I love his playstyle. I know that this he's not supposed to be on the same level of strength as like
Yeah,
all the other
no, I mean,
champions,
yeah.
but it's absurd. Like without even star 4, like he is
Yeah.
so absurd, and I'm so glad we have him. But like you're right, he's
Yeah.
gonna make me a worse player because it's like I just play Champion Simulator with him. Like I'll literally
Me
like go
too.
do an ASO run and I'll just grab every single champion
Well,
and
me
I'll just run
too.
with it.
And I mean, it works, so who cares? Let's do it. Let's
like
go.
like I've used champions though that like I haven't used in such a long time, which is so fun. Like the fact that like I was like, man, like Victor feels so good on him because he generates a security card every turn, but it's like who when I'm not normally picking Victor on on an ASO run, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
just like there's other better win cons. Like
Yeah.
the fact that like I already like playing Galio in a lot of ASO runs, but like
Yeah.
getting him insta level feels ridiculous. You know,
Yeah.
whenever you're
Yeah.
playing a Galio,
Yeah.
like
I mean, you get rallies every turn once you get Galio level. It's kind of crazy.
also, the sheer hilarious things you can do with the generation of like the epic or rare items on each of your created cards is
Yeah.
absurd. Like there's some you can get some crazy combos without ever even drawing like Aurelion Soul, which is
Yeah.
like he's genuinely like one of the decks that probably has like the best win con besides actual champions. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
because the other notable thing that I think is actually like really promising for the future that I'm not sure a lot of people have noticed yet, but if you look at the Starry Scamp, I believe is the
Yep.
name. Yeah, Starry
Hmm.
Scamp. He has not only does he have 2 items on it, which is kind of normal for some of the items
Yeah.
in decks sometimes, but he has 2 epic items on it,
Yeah.
which is not common. I think he's
Yeah.
actually the first champion ever to have actual epic items,
I
and
think there
that's
might have
promising.
been one, but I don't think there's a deck that had two before. Yeah.
Yeah, and if it was one, it wasn't like on the same card, and
No, no,
especially the
definitely
strength
not. No, no,
level.
no.
Not
Obviously, yeah,
like
yeah,
that, because
yeah,
like the fact that he can give any unit elusive is
yeah,
so strong. Like that's
yeah.
not only does he have elusive on himself, he gives it to other cards because he has that buckle on him, and it's just his soul is just so strong. I mean, like if we're gonna talk, I think we should also talk a little bit about like maybe what relic builds we've kind of been throwing around on him because I'm really interested to hear what you've been cooking.
Yeah. So I yeah, I was gonna actually ask you what build you're using. I have him in the high 20s, so I have rare common. So what I'm using on him is the rally, the crown guards,
Yeah.
and oh geez, what's the other one I'm using? Oh yeah, I actually put Scourge's stash on him because as soon as you drop Assault, you win the game. Like you win the game because you get the high cost Celestial card, and yeah, I mean, you're just getting way too much tempo. So I figured whatever gets my ASOL down even faster, I'll just run it. So I ran Scourge's Stash and Crown Guard. It's pretty funny. Like I don't think there's been a game that I've gone more than turn 3 on with ASOL. Like it's that crazy.
Right. I mean, and not only that, but like, do you have an idea of what you might put as like your third relic for like a rare if you once you unlock it?
I don't even know. I don't even know. But I did want to talk about his relic, the Starshore Gauntlet. So I actually, I think this thing is broken. Like it's just as broken as Asol is, and I don't have it. I didn't actually buy the package, and I kind of don't want to because it's like I don't think it's gonna be fun. I think it's too good. I think it's too good. I'm just gonna
I
want to run
think
it on everyone.
I was gonna say is like I ran it on a few different people, and we could talk about that in a second. I do want to kind of touch over the ASO build, and it does actually involve the Starforged Gauntlets and Starforged Gauntlets. Absurd on ASO, especially. Obviously, I mean it's basically like in the same way that like the Pow Pows were made for Jinx, or the Loose Cannon Payload was made for Jinx, and like you can look at like Echoing Spirit, and like into some ways that was made for Bard, right? Starforged has been made for ASOL. It's absurd the amount of times that you can get a literal level 2 champion so strong. And I've been running that on him, and let me tell you, that +1 starting mana, like on its own, without the manifest or the invoke, does so much. Like it's
Yeah,
already an absurd relic. But then up beyond that, I've been running Crown Guard just like you have been.
yeah,
And I think that there's a few other options that you can run on ASOL. I think Crown Guard is just a really good way to like finish out the game. A few other options you can run are Troll King's Crown, just get everything overwhelmed, make sure
You
you can
know,
play the
I
basic.
started with TKC, and then I stopped it because I was like, I've already won the game. What do I need Overwhelm for?
Yeah, well, see, that was the thing. Is just like finishing out games versus like bigger characters, but also
Yeah.
one of the other ones I'm actually very high on is the Deceiver's Crest. So
Mm.
getting that 15-15
Yeah.
damage on the board, especially it's basically like getting the Star 4 power before you actually get the Star 4 power, right? It's like you're
Yeah.
getting the ability to do that 15 damage to the board, and like
Yeah.
it like basically wipes out like any unit. There was actually a scary moment in one of my runs with ASOL where like it didn't actually wipe out a unit. Like there was like 16 health on the unit, and so like it just didn't die. But like most of the time, you're wiping out the entire board with ASOL with like the Seaver's Crest and like Surge's. I think Surge's Stash is a really other good pickup that you can use because it is just so strong when it comes to actually like getting ASOL out that much sooner, and especially whenever like it allows you to attack before you play ASOL, and then you can attack again with Crown Guard. So it's like just such a perfect combo, you know. Um,
Yeah. So have you been using Starforge gauntlets on other champs?
yes. So great question. So there's a few that I've actually used it on, and I think there's been some varying success with it. I would say I think some champions work with it a lot more than others. I think the strongest one I've actually seen it on, and I'll explain why, is Talia, and that's because
Mm.
Talia. First off,
This makes
Talia, I
sense.
actually, yeah, I was gonna say Talia is already like she's not necessarily a bad champion, but like the problem is that her as a win con is just not so strong. So you rely a lot more on playing around your landmarks, things like that. And one of the biggest things that landmarks struggle with is they struggle a lot with they need the tempo of the turn countdown because that's the
Yes.
way that they're balanced.
Yeah.
And being able to get more landmarks out faster is actually one of the reasons that makes her a lot stronger of a
Yeah.
champion. Because I felt like I was an aggro deck with like an extra mana, like
Yeah.
on Talia. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, it felt so strong to get two landmarks out instead of one on turn one. It was
I
broken.
actually haven't played her in a while, but from what I can remember, she doesn't really have like specific relics that she absolutely needs. She's pretty flexible. So
Well,
if
that's
you're able
another reason.
to,
Yeah.
yeah, so if you're able to get like basically a free mana flow, which you literally are, because basically getting a free mana flow, um, it really helps her because her deck has a lot of threes, fours, and fives, especially like the four because it has the I forget the name of it, the one that pops the landmark and then makes your
The Desert
grumpy. The,
Naturalist.
the naturalist, the desert naturalist.
Yeah.
Being able to play the desert naturalist one turn early, that's massive. That's so good.
It's so good. And I mean, also, like the mana like just kind of frees itself up. It means that like you have that one extra mana to maybe play it like Imagine Possibilities to turn faster, right? Which is the
Mm.
one that counts down all your landmarks by one. Like there's a lot of ones that like it allows you to play both the Hibernating Rock Bear and an Ancient Preparations in turn one, right? Like which is huge. Like you're getting two landmarks for when you normally only get one. It's like it's probably the more hidden one. Also, I just wanted to mention that obviously if you're going to run Starforge on a champion like Talia is not a Titanic unit on her own, so
Right.
she does need a
Yeah.
Luminous Orb.
You
So
need you
currently,
need two slots to get her there. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
and currently my build on Talia has been Luminous Orb, Starforged, as well as Crown Guards. Crown
Cool.
Guards I think is really good
Yeah.
because, like I said, I feel like I'm an aggro deck, so allowing her to just level and just attack again is just absurd. Like once you get those five landmarks down, which you're consistently getting like every game, you feel like you have so much tempo because of the overwhelm. Like I think the thing that really makes her feel really strong is not just a +1/+1, but that extra overwhelm stat whenever you're attacking with her.
Yeah.
And like
Free
it
troll
feels
king. Yeah. It's pretty
yes, literally,
nice.
it's free choking. It
Yeah.
actually allows so much more potential. And I will say that the other one that's felt really good on is Lux. I don't think it's as strong as
Oh.
it is on Talia,
Yeah.
but the reason why it feels so good on Lux is because of one spell in particular, but just in general the concept behind it. But if you can pull Succession turn one,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can get a free Succession turn one, which allows you to get to 5 mana by turn two.
Yeah.
And when you're able to play that combo and you're able to push that pace, you feel so much more on par with all the other like things where it's like it doesn't feel like you can really lose with Lux at that point. But even beyond that, like the reason why this one's a little bit more like theory crafting, I would say, than more so than Talia, which is when you look at Lux, right, and you look at the mana that you get from turn one to turn two, on turn one, normally you have 2 mana. Then on turn two, you normally have 3 mana. So you're only able to play a 5 cost spell or less
Yeah.
whenever you're on those first two turns.
Yeah.
But by getting the game starting at 3 mana, you actually get turn one is 3 mana, turn two is 4 mana. So you're able to play a 7 cost spell, which already activates Lux's powers
Yeah.
and her champion. And so it's like that's why it's so much better on her to have that extra mana scale, especially since like I think that you only really have to run 1 to 2 relics on Lux that I think that are like quote unquote required.
Hmm.
So losing only one of those isn't too bad.
Yeah.
Whereas like trying to fill in some random third relic feels a little bit worse. And she works out really well. I think that the two relics that I like the most on Lux a lot of the time are him and Chemtech Duplicator. I
Yeah.
personally cut him. So I actually keep Chemtech Duplicator. I think it does a little bit more for pressure in the game because you're able to copy the Lux champion spell,
Yeah.
as well as your other, it allows your the actual
And
champion
the
spell.
Starforge gets you to the Chemtech activation threshold 1 turn earlier, right?
Yes, it's a great synergy. Like those are the two that I feel like outside of ASOL have the most effect. I tried it on a few other champions, and I think on Volibear, like it's actually so unnecessary. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
was playing it on
I honestly don't
Volibear.
think it makes sense because you already have so many mana reductions with his star powers. Like, what are you doing with this extra mana? Like, other than maybe avalanching a turn earlier, that's the only thing I can really think of.
There was like two things that were like nice about it, but I'll talk about why I just don't think it's that good in a second. But it's
Yeah.
like the champions deck. There is a card called I think it's like Valhyr's Prophet,
Mm,
and that
yeah.
one is
So-
nice to be able to play turn one, but it's like it doesn't feel like it's worth losing another relic slot over like that kind of tempo. What I do think is like if you're actually looking for another epic to play on Volibear, I know we're talking about Starforge Gauntlets, but just a quick aside, just run Disciple if you have it. Like I think Disciple is actually really good on Volibear, because it allows you to get Volibear a lot faster. Like if you're looking to play Volibear fast, you run Disciple because if you can get like 4 units on the board and you've also got like two of his like his power with the sigils, you'll get Volibear's like a 2 mana at that point. You know what I mean? You can just drop him anyway. So if you're looking to get him out sooner, don't run Starforge Gauntlet unless you really feel like you want to. Even though he is Titanic, that it just doesn't feel like it's worth it. You know?
There's one big problem, one really, really big problem that you're kind of ignoring. And then if we run Starforge, you can't run Triple Gatebreaker.
Yes, it's a
I'm kind of
Triple
being
Gatebreaker
serious
is the
too.
new Gale Force, so
I'm
you
kind
just
of being
can't.
serious. Like like
Yeah, I
Triple
know it
Gatebreaker is
really
like
is.
OP.
It's probably his strongest one. I think the other thing too is like so I was thinking, well, it's not that good on Volibear, so I'll try it on his brother. And so I tried it on Orin, and I haven't finished the first run with him yet for it, but it feels okay. It's
Yeah.
not it doesn't feel broken on Orin, but I think part of that is just because I don't feel like Orin is broken.
Yeah.
But the problem is that you're taking 2 relic slots away from Orin, which really feels like once you get Orin down, so you get an extra mana slot out of him, but once you get Orin down, he doesn't feel like he's as strong as like of an actual presence on the board. To the point where like I almost feel like do you just run Disciple because it does something very similar, but for one less relic slot. Like if you're trying to get Orin that much faster on the board. So it just kind of feels to me like it's not very worth it on him. Um, as much as like it just seems like the Freljord brothers just can't run it as well. I guess as some of the other champions.
Yeah, no, that's yeah. I think I agree with everything you said. We actually have just one more topic to like. We're kind of running over time already, but we have one more topic to
Let me
talk about
just
as well.
can I just
Um,
tell you a quick pocket pick? I think you're going to be interested in this one.
okay.
It's you might be a little sad because it's your one of your favorite champions of all time,
Uh
but
oh.
I've been running it on Tom Kench, and
Okay.
I actually like it. I like it on Tom Kench because he that extra 1 mana helps a lot because you really want to get Kench out fast so that you can start to get that generation for his captures, and it feels pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, much like you already like Luminous Orb already feels nice on him because you're just getting that extra health, so it kind of like synergizes pretty well.
Yeah.
And I actually like it a lot. But anyway, we'll keep
I
going
don't
with what
know
you're
though
talking.
because I do like my GGC on Tom. I do like I have my Tom build that I really like. So it's like
So I was going to say it might not work for you, but I'm for some of the
yeah.
people out there that want a little bit of extra, cooking material. That's an idea right there
Yeah,
for you.
yeah. Okay, yeah, no, I well, but I do like that idea. I do like being able to ramp out the tom a little bit faster as well. Okay, last topic because we are like literally running over time here.
Oopsies.
So there was an announcement that finally, 2 years into Path of Champions 2.0, we are going to have the whole world of Runeterra. We are finally getting our 10th region. Freljord has been announced. It seems that it's pretty much all but confirmed, but the last adventure is going to be Lysandra. But they didn't say too much else. That was kind of it. It was just.
I don't think that they said necessarily it was the last adventure, no, or was that it was?
No. I sorry. I said I just mean the last region unlocked.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. No, the last region is finally unlocked, and yeah, it's gonna be Freljord. No surprise there, but finally, like it's tangible. We can feel it. It's coming. Winter is coming, and
which I'm actually very excited for. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's going to be really interesting. Like, I feel like I don't want to get my hopes up too high, but I feel like they probably have been cooking this for a long time because I know that they have been working on, like, I can't say that much, but I know that they have been working on Freljord for like a long time. So they probably are coming up with something pretty special for this. I think it's going to be pretty well tested and thought out. But I have no idea what they have in mind and what they have in store. What do you think? What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, just on the out the gate. I mean, Freljord is my favorite region, so
okay,
for me, this is going to be so exciting. Because,
I mean, you basically are the human incarnate of Udyr, so that makes sense.
Yeah, right. Yeah. that's why, like, for me, it was one of those things where, like, I was waiting a long time because, like, Targon was my second favorite region and Freljord was my first. So, like, waiting on Targon and then waiting on Freljord was like, what am I even doing here? You know, while I'm waiting, like waiting for these two to drop. And after the absolute beautiful map that they dropped for Targon, like I'm not sure how much fan you are of like just looking at like the map that they drop and everything, but like I have nothing but complete faith for how beautiful the Freljord map is going to be, which is like it's going to get added to the pool of like the ways that you can play against it and stuff, which I'm just hyped for on its own. But like it's gonna be so exciting finally getting like the cold champion some love, you know, like it opens so many doors because I think that there's so many like final bosses you can do in the Freljord in general. Like you can think Volibear, you can think Lysandra, obviously, which is what they're going with. I mean, even something like if they add like Olaf in the future, you know what I mean? Like those are some cool ones that you can kind of be like, oh my god, like these are some really cool, like, you know, you could make them kind of scary.
I'm gonna throw out a wild prediction, and I could be totally off base here. But like I said, because I think they have been cooking this for a while, I would not be surprised if the final boss, Lysandra, has variants like how Galio does. You know how Galio, you can get Malphite and Shyvana and Senna? Maybe that's going to be the case here as well.
Well, so we do have a little bit of secret info from the man himself, and just in the terms of the fact that we know that Dan Felder, who used to work on Path Champion stuff, did say he thinks it will be tougher than Asol. He doesn't know for certain or anything, but that was his prediction for the run itself.
That's pretty crazy.
I am actually hoping that it's gonna be tougher than Asol. I really do. It's like the whole idea that like we're gonna get something above Asol is so huge to me because I think that as a whole, Path of Champions needs to scale vertically, not horizontally. I think it needs to have tougher and tougher adventures more so than it needs to fill out like another 1-star or 2-star. Like I think that there's already those experiences if you need them, but like at least starting vertically first and then later on filling horizontally will feel a lot better for Path of Champions. And so getting something tougher than Asol would be so amazing because there was within his interview with Real Prism Sword, he talked about how there was a challenge that made one of his coworkers scream. And this is the adventure that made them scream. So I'm very excited with how tough it's going to be. I mean, one of my first thoughts ever, because we know it's going to be Lysandra, right? So the reason why we know it's Lysandra is because the name of the adventure is Ice Witch, and so you know, and he brought up Ash with this like the other one. So it's this Ash is one of the sisters of Lysandra, and it's so perfect because I'm hoping that it has something to do with the Watcher. Like that'd be so great.
I think you're right. Like I think for it to be difficult, it's gonna do something with the Watcher, and it's gonna be
Like it's really interesting too, because then you're wondering like, well, what do they do as like, if it's gonna be tougher in the ASOL, it's probably gonna have some sort of like legendary run power, right? Because like
Hmm.
the way adventures are set up is obviously each encounter has its own power, but then also there's a run power, right? Like we know this. There's always run power. Like ASOLs is whenever you summon a champion, everything gets doubled, right? Like the
Hmm.
stats get doubled. And I'm wondering if it's gonna be a ramp power, like in the sense that like maybe it has something to do with tough, right? Like I think like when I think Lysandra, I think Nexus and the board being tough is like a classic. You know what I mean? Like just like nothing takes damage type deal. So
Yeah.
like I almost wonder like are they gonna do something with like either units having tough or like maybe the Nexus has tough? Like those kind of ideas are like super duper cool to think about because then it counters a lot of aggro champs.
What I'm worried about is I think it might have something to do with the thrall countdowns. Like I think they're going to do something crazy like all thralls have countdown 1 or something like that.
That would be insane. Like I think that one of the reasons why it was so exciting for me was like I was already excited about the adventure, but I wasn't sure what direction they were going to go with it until Dan really mentioned a couple things, which were the one of the other things that really caught my eye was is that he did nerf it a little bit, but like his
Hmm.
his first iteration of the run, none of his best playtesters, he was saying, like some of his strongest playtesters, could get more than halfway through with full level champions that were level 33 star and had
Jesus.
an epic relic.
Oh my
So they
god.
had so much and they weren't able to get more than halfway through the adventure.
Oh my
So
god.
that gives me promise that obviously he nerfed it a little bit. So I'm assuming that now you can do that with like, level 33 star and all that. But like the fact that it is that challenging, like that's where I want them to go. I like the challenge. I like feeling like it's like it feels like such an achievement to beat it, like the same way ASOL felt. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like when you first beat ASOL, it was like, man, I just beat ASOL. And it's like the first time beating ASOL on each champion really feels like an accomplishment. And if we
Yeah.
can make that the same for Lysandra, I think that's what a lot of passive champions players are looking for.
Yeah, no, I think, I hope that, to be honest with the ASOL map, I do find that there's a little too much variance between the champions. Like, there's some champions that just can never really work against ASOL because the way they're designed, they're too slow. And I have this feeling that with the Freljord map that it's not going to be as fast. It's not going to be like you need to have these aggro decks, these fast decks that you actually probably will be able to win even with these slower decks. Because Dan kind of did mention something about that. Something about that. He doesn't want difficulty to always be tied into tempo and how fast the enemies are.
And that'll be awesome. I think
Yeah.
that like that's also one of the other things too is it's like it feels really good to have like these champions that maybe aren't necessarily as strong. You feel like because they just don't have the ability to stop like the sheer power of like an ASOL just dropping on like turn 3, right, with like mana flow or whatever. Like it's like it just feels so impossible sometimes, and it's like having some of these slower champions be able to have their time to shine and like have a clear cut power level that maybe you don't always see and not rely as much on like getting some super strong power to win. It's gonna be really exciting. I think that that's gonna be a huge turning point for the game, and I think that's part of what was needed.
Yeah.
Though it's like that's why I keep going back to is like the part of what makes it really awesome is by scaling it vertically like that, you're gonna get more of the ability to hit these runs that aren't just so aggro based. Like it kind of like, for example, right? Like we look at the Shuriman mission versus the Shadow Isles mission, right? Like
Mm.
if you look at Thresh versus Kaisa, with Kaisa, like in Aurelia especially, like that's aggro. Like
Yeah.
you gotta stop them fast. You gotta either win
Yeah.
before they do. You have to find somebody to stabilize. Thresh and Trinamir are not aggro. You know what I mean?
Tryndamere is
So
like the complete opposite. Yeah.
it's right, and so it's really nice if we could have some more balance like that with some of these tougher challenges because,
Yeah.
like, I want it to feel like once you're getting to 3 star level 30, it's still hard to beat a run. Like
Hmm.
I want it to be challenging. And it's like I feel like most of the time, like maybe this is just spoiled me who's played so much Path already and like plays a ridiculous amount, and like I've been cooking for builds for forever. I've been playing this mode for forever. Like maybe it's me just wanting this extra challenge because like whenever I play ASOL now, it's like I know I'm gonna win. You know what I mean? Like in my
Yeah.
mind, I know I'm gonna
Yeah.
win. So it's like getting a new adventure. Like it's been so long since we've gotten a new adventure, and like
Yeah.
one where I'm gonna feel like I'm not sure I will win. Like this is gonna be like a really worrisome. Like oh my god, like I have to be really careful with my relics. Like my favorite part is going to be on that very first run, like loading in and not knowing what anything is, and then just complaining that it's broken. Like that's going to be my favorite part of the entire run. Like, well, I'm still figuring everything out, and like it's so broken, and then like slowly learning how to beat the run. Because like I still remember my first ASL run, running it on Malawi, getting double silenced both times. That I got silenced the first time, lost. Got revived, got silenced a second time, and lost again. And I just complained for like 10 minutes because I was like, "How do you get silenced twice?" And it's like, but that's the beauty of it. It's like you don't know what's going to happen, and then like you learn about things as you go. Like I think that's part of what makes Pat so special, and I want more of those experiences.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. Like, the last thing we want to do is like create these expectations and then like be disappointed because it's like, oh, it's not what we expected. But I do, like I said, like I have full confidence in them because I do know that they've been cooking this for a while.
Oh, I think it's going to be a really good adventure.
Yeah,
I'm
it's gonna
just
be well
hoping that it's a
designed.
little bit tougher as an adventure.
Yeah,
I don't think I have any expectations for it to be like the final boss level of like anything like that. I mean, it'd be awesome if it was, but like I
right.
think as long as it's anywhere comparable to the ASOL run, like I'm going to be pretty happy with it.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
don't want it to be something where it starts to feel like it's more of like another Kaiser run or another Thresh run because it's like we already have two of those, and it's
yeah,
like it
yeah.
feels pretty consistent to be able to beat those as long as you kind of know what you're doing
Know
in
what you're
those
doing.
runs.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's where it's like those runs are better for like the newer players because they are the ones that haven't figured everything out when it comes to the modes yet, and they're still learning and they're still understanding how like some of the path mechanics work. Whereas like for players like you or for me who've been playing for a long time, we want those runs where it's like even if I pick, you know, like frostbite the enemy at the round start, am I still gonna win this run? You know what I mean? Like it's
Yeah.
like those are the runs where it's gonna feel like the most special. But I have no problems having faith in the Path team because they seem like they have a really good plan, and I'm just excited that we're gonna get a new adventure after so long.
Yeah, and I mean, we don't have a date yet, but I feel like it's going to be pretty soon. Like they usually don't make these announcements that far in advance, so yeah, like we were talking about this a little bit before we started the podcast, but we're thinking it's either going to be December or January, like pretty soon. The only thing that I was thinking with December is it might be an issue just because Riot does go on a Christmas break for 2 weeks. So they don't like to do like big updates right before Christmas in case there is like a bug or a problem. So maybe it might be after Christmas, but I mean, maybe not. Like if they've been cooking this a long time, maybe they have it all bug tested and maybe it will be ready to go even before that.
I think that the one reason I like there's two thoughts in my mind is it was like for me one thought is like again you were as you're talking about in terms of like the release of the information like it seemed like they had the encounter like already like ready to show,
Yeah.
like in terms of like an actual picture, which means that it's pretty well developed, that it's like it's on the actual like Rune Terran like map for their playtest and things like that. So that's
Mm-hmm.
like already gave me a lot of hope for like the release schedule. But also, if I remember correctly, I think we're due for new champions soon, right? I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure,
I
and
think
I think
so.
that their
December, I
goal is
think.
to release it with the December patch. Like I would
Yeah,
assume
maybe.
that
Yeah.
that's their goal.
Yeah.
It might not end up working out that way,
Yeah.
but I would think that their goal is to try and like get like this huge update to Path. You know what I mean? Where
Yeah.
it's like they kind of seem to like that release schedule of like maybe we make like a couple small updates to Path, and then it's like boom, you get everything you've ever wanted all at once, and then it's like another couple small updates, then boom, everything you want all at once. And I think that we're building up to this kind of like we're gonna get a bunch of stuff, but I also wouldn't be
Yeah.
surprised if it's January. I
Yeah,
don't think it'll be any later than January.
I actually had to ask Dan about that, about how they do these updates, and apparently because it's like actually cost efficient, like money wise, they actually do that exactly what you said is put out a lot of stuff all at once, so that it's actually more cost efficient for them. So that's
For the
yeah,
player or for them?
no, for Riot,
Okay, yeah.
for the programmers,
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because it's a
yeah,
little bit more like
because
you're just trying to put
the
in everything
yeah
that's new at the same time rather than like slowly kind of add everything,
yeah.
which is why like I mean think about how big the adventure is going to be. Like I don't imagine them doing anything less than a 3 star, right? Like if we're talking about
Oh
in
yeah, no,
terms of the
I
actual
think it's
adventure
going to be
itself.
like at a minimum like equivalent to like a Galio type of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit tougher than a Galio probably, but like I can't
Oh,
imagine them.
I mean the length. Like I think it might have
Oh,
like
okay, I see what you're
two mini
saying.
bosses.
Yeah, I was gonna say that that's the other thing too. Is like in terms of the run, like how much is too much with some of these runs, especially if it's a
Yeah.
slower run. Like because part of my thought process is that like with ASOL, that's like almost too long, depending on what champion you're playing.
Mm,
You know,
mm,
and
mm,
it's like
mm, mm.
one of the
Yeah,
things that they talk about a lot is that they don't want runs to be too long, or in
yeah,
general, like, they just don't
yeah,
want the path experience to be too long for people that don't have as much time to play it.
yeah.
And so I wonder if they're going to scale back the time, but
Yep.
and still keep the difficulty. It's
Yeah.
kind of like what I'm
Yeah.
wondering
It's
in
funny
terms of it.
because Bounty Hunters Renown is good against Assault because it's so long. Otherwise,
Yeah,
it wouldn't.
well,
If it was a short run, it wouldn't even be that good.
that's the thing, right? And that's
Yeah.
what makes, like, that's why we were talking about earlier, like the monthly challenges versus like ASOL. Like some relics just stand better against ASOL than they do in the monthly challenges
Yep.
because like the it's two reasons, right? One is
Yeah.
that the run's so long that like certain relics get so much value over a long run. The other reason is that ASOL is a lot more unpredictable because of how long the run is. So getting more flexible relics sometimes feels a little bit better against ASOL than it will in a monthly, where like you have a better idea of what you're actually going to get, you know, and you're going to encounter because it's very small and compact. So I'll be very interested to see where they end up in terms of the length of the run, because especially if you're talking like a bit of a slower run, like how long you take that, because like Ace Soul is a really long run, but I would argue that like honestly it's pretty quick for how long it is. And you think about how
Yeah.
many encounters it is, like it's a pretty quick run for how long it is. So like, are they going to keep that same length, or are they going to shorten it? You know,
Yeah.
like where
Yeah.
are they going to go with everything there? And I'm excited because I think that if it's anywhere near as hard as what Dan was kind of hyping it up to be, now, you know, maybe there is some misunderstanding there on my end, but like, if from what it sounds like, where he said that he thinks it'll be harder than Asol, you know, like, I'm happy if that's where we're at with the difficulty level. If it's our first if it's our first 4.5 star coming out as an adventure, I mean, I'm gonna be jumping out of my chair. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just that's just me, because like I genuinely like the
Cacti loves his
difficulties.
punishment.
I like, you know, I think that Path of Champions is a fine line between punishment and actually enjoying the mode. You know, like it's like you want to like get that challenge where it feels like you've earned stuff, because like that's one of those things too for me where it's like there isn't much of a reason to play a lot of these champions you have like very high leveled except on ASOL, because it's just like it doesn't feel like anything even like really pushes against them as like a difficulty, you know. And it's like if this is another run where it's like I'm thinking like, you know, I've got like a level 20 champion and I'm trying to level them up quick, and I'm like, I don't know who to go for,
Yeah.
Asol or Lysandra, you know. Like
Yeah.
I kind of like that, you know, where it's like I don't know what else I want to level them into because it's going to be really hard to do, you know.
All right. Well, Cacti, I have to be the bad guy here, but we are running over time here. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to cut it there. But yeah, this is our first go at this type of podcast. We're gonna call it Cacti Cuties, I think.
That's
Um,
right. That's the testing name in
this
labs
is
right
this
now.
is
So
still
we're
very much in beta. So please, if you guys have suggestions on anything, the format, how you want us to present it, on topics you want us to talk about, let us know. Let us know in the comments, because we're very open to changes and reconstructing it. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope you guys have fun. I had fun. What about you, Cacti?
I did too. I think that the other thing you guys got to talk about too is in the chat. Just let us know how you feel about Power Cuties being the official Wizard of Path. Other than that, I think we can end it where it is. It was such a pleasure, dude. Such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I can't wait to do this again. We don't know how often we're going to do this. Basically, we want to do it whenever there's like a significant update or news to talk about. So we're
Or if we
thinking,
feel like we can talk about stuff, like
yeah,
if we think we have ideas, we'll also talk
yeah.
about stuff.
Yeah, so we're not sure. It might be every 2 weeks, might be every 4 weeks. We'll see. We'll see. We'll play it by ear, but we do want to have something interesting to talk about. But this was fun. I really, really, really enjoyed watching your monthlies. Go check them out. They are on Cactimamba's YouTube channel. It's great. If you want to watch a wizard, I've got my runs up on my YouTube. They're a little bit longer, but they're there. And we all hope you guys are enjoying the monthlies as well. We hope you're enjoying ASOL. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. I mean, it like for at least for my video, everything will be links in the description. So if you want to go check out Powder Cuties, it will be in the description as well. And with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed.
Thank you guys very much. You guys have a great day, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.